Imagine, if you will, a young child flipping through channels on their CRT television in 2006. Their parents don't want to bother paying for cable, so they only have the public access channels that their antenna can pick up. Eventually, they come across a bumper for a movie they've never seen before. Entranced by the combination of colors and emotion present in the movie, they choose to watch it. After the hour-and-a-half long life-changing experience is over, the child sits in front of the TV, unable to distinguish from reality or fiction. They go to their room and crawl into their bed with the movie still on their mind. The next day, it's gone. Just another thought trapped in the annals of an ever-shifting child's memory. A decade and a half later, this child, now a young adult, comes across this movie on their streaming service of choice. They have a vague memory of seeing it before, but no real recollection of the context. Upon rewatching it, they are flooded with childhood wonder and curiosity about the vast world they live in. Wasn't that fun to imagine? I wish that happened to me. Anyway, I want to talk about Angus. Angus is a 1995 teen comedy that follows the titular Angus, the quote-unquote big kid at high school, as he traverses the world of schoolwork, girls, and comically cruel bullies. It wasn't a huge success, but it did manage to make about 3 times its budget. When your film's budget is only around $1.5 million, however, 3 times your budget means you only reached around 0.4% of the US population. For context, that's less than the current population of Rhode Island. So many movies get made, make a profit at the box office, and then fade into obscurity. So, how the hell did I come across this movie? Well, have you heard of this little band called Weezer? Like most teenagers who feel isolated and romantically pine after someone who they'll never be with, I was really into Weezer. Luckily for me, my dad had a lot of their music saved onto the hard drive of the family computer. While scanning through all of these glorious power pop masterpieces, I came across a song titled You Gave Your Love to Me Softly, off of the album Music from the Motion Picture Angus. When I asked my dad about it, he told me he had never seen the movie before, but the soundtrack had some great songs on it. About a year and a half later, I found a copy of this CD at a thrift store for basically $1. Fast forward 3 years later, and I'm a college student watching all the movies that feature songs I like. I finally pull up Angus, give it a watch, and fall in love. Now, that's my experience, but in my limited research consisting of Googling things about Angus, I don't seem to be completely alone. Lots of reviews on its Letterboxd page reference J.A.R., the Green Day song featured in the movie. Same thing with a bunch of random Reddit posts. For those unfamiliar with the intricacies of Green Day, J.A.R. is probably the most popular Green Day rarity. It was recorded during the sessions for their major label debut, Dookie, but was ultimately left off for reasons I'm too lazy to look beyond the Wikipedia page for. It was finally released as the lead single for the soundtrack of Angus, and I think it's pretty safe to say that the song J.A.R. has surpassed the popularity of the movie. Multiple famous punk artists cite it as one of their favorite Green Day songs, and Green Day themselves still perform it live sometimes. Mark Hoppus of Blink-182 shared how the opening for What's My Age Again is a bastardization of the opening of J.A.R. I once saw a Spotify Green Day documentary where some kid, who was probably younger than me, got a chance to play a song with the band on stage. Out of Green Day's entire catalog of songs, he chose J.A.R. It would seem that Angus is a film doomed to be overshadowed by a song on its soundtrack, if aggregation of numbers was the only thing that mattered regarding the impact of art. But it's not, so let's talk more about me. Truth be told, when I first popped in the CD for Angus, I was pretty disappointed in my purchase. most of the songs just came across as generic 90s rock music. Besides the aforementioned songs, as well as the contribution by Dancehall Crashers, all the songs kind of sounded the same to me. 2 years later, I went out to college and I took all my CDs with me. I had garnered a pretty modest collection of around 50 CDs by this point. When I came across Angus's soundtrack going through my collection, I decided to give it a second chance, then a third chance, then a fourth chance, and so on and so on. And, as with most things I obsess over multiple times, it became one of my favorite albums of all time. The opener, JAR, hooks you in with an infectious bass line that preps you to bang your head as soon as the first 3 guitar chords strike your eardrums. Ash's 2 contributions to the soundtrack produce a sweet naivete that evokes a feeling of dancing alone in your room while thinking about that special someone. Dancehall Crashers provide some of the most captivating harmonies that 90s ska punk has to offer. Mrs. You and Me has a rawness to it that makes the otherwise sappy lyrics come across as a genuine expression of love. Weezer somehow manages to capture the feeling of staring into someone's eyes and being unable to hold back a smile. The Goo Goo Dolls provide a 90s pop rock song that feels like it belongs in a slow-motion sequence in a movie, which it just so happens to be. The chorus of Funny Face is asking to be screamed aloud at the top of your lungs while driving down the interstate. White Homes, like so many other songs on this soundtrack, has a fun, danceable energy that never gets old. Pansy Division provides a vocal performance that is one of the best expressions of feeling isolated I've heard in a song. And finally, the triumphant closer Am I Wrong is a perfect ballad to dissolve to after a long and strenuous day. Now, not all of these songs are my all-time favorites. The Riverdale's Back to You comes to mind as a particularly okay song. Still, the soundtrack as a cohesive whole is an album I find myself coming back to no matter the situation. Am I happy? Let's put on Angus to embrace the triumph of young love. Am I sad? Let's put on Angus to just release all of those emotions. One of the best aspects of music is its ability to create different meaning for the different people who listen to it. And when music is able to evoke different emotions for the same person depending on the situation, that music achieves a new level of greatness. But the soundtrack is only a small portion of the greater whole of the movie, so let's talk about that. It's hard to explain why Angus as a film works so well. At a very surface level, it describes the typical loser gets the girl and beats the jock storyline, and it would be easy to dismiss the film as such. Unlike most of those films, however, Angus takes an approach of pseudo-realism to its storytelling. The acting in this movie is lifelike, brought about by an incredible cast, including 2 Oscar-winning actors. Charlie Talbert, in his feature film debut, brings a charisma and energy to his character that perfectly captures the overly dramatic actions of teenage angst. Kathy Bates kills it as his mom, delivering probably the best monologue of the film.
And he gets up and he goes back there every single day. So don't you tell me I don't know how strong my son is.
George C. Scott plays this stereotypical grouchy grandpa, but in a way where you see the character is putting on this persona for fun. That way, when he drops the act in order to get serious, it doesn't feel out of character. At first, I was unimpressed with Chris Owen's performance of Troy, but the more I watch the film, the more I see an earnest kid who just wants to be able to be himself. This was probably helped by one of my friends informing me that he knew at least 4 kids who acted just like him. Ariana Richards, as Melissa Lefevre, takes the unattainable high school goddess trope and creates a persona with just as many fears and insecurities as the next person. The other high schoolers fill the space of tried and true high school movie cliches, but putting these over-the-top caricatures side by side with the fleshed-out Angus really helps to emphasize the isolation he feels.
White frame homes to live and leave, nothing to gain. Your color.
Another way it bucks the trends is by avoiding the cliches of the aforementioned loser gets the girl narrative. For one thing, Angus doesn't really get the girl at the end. Sure, she gives him a kiss on the cheek, But what really happens is that both Angus and Melissa realize that you can connect with people who may seem like they live completely different lives. The coloring and set design are also pretty awesome. Every location feels lived in and used, adding to the grounded performances by the cast. It's hard to explain what makes the significance of the colors so important without summarizing the entirety of the plot, but the choice to make his tuxedo purple when his science project is all about trying to force a red substance to mix with a blue substance is so cool. If that doesn't make any sense, you should watch the movie. That's one of the whole purposes of this video anyway. Finally, the music is just wonderful. For all the reasons I mentioned previously, most notably the energy and general romance, the songs that are selected provide a perfect atmosphere for whatever scene they connect to. It's always so satisfying whenever a song kicks in to begin the transition to another scene. A few of the songs featured in the film are not included on the soundtrack, such as Hot Hot Hot, which plays during the dance training montage, or Fade Into You, which is the background music for Angus and Melissa's climactic slow dance. But each of these songs still feels perfectly chosen or crafted to fit the scene. Kudos to Elliot Kahn and Jeff Saltzman for being incredible music supervisors. These guys were also producers for about half of these artists, which shows how they got such an impressive group of people to work on such a relatively small movie. Since we're on a side tangent with fun facts at this point, there's also another Weezer song that was scrapped from the movie after being written for a much different original script. It's called Wanda, and you can find it on one of Rivers Cuomo's demo albums.
What's wrong with me? I'm kind of funny.
If you can't tell, I really love this movie. There's a sense of strength and nostalgia that this film provides that I can't find anywhere else. I often find myself wishing that I were a young adult in the 90s. I know that comes across as a tried and true cliche of, I was born in the wrong generation. But a lot of the modern trends and things that my peers love don't really connect with me. Sometimes I just want to feel seen within the modernity that I'm forced to be a part of. And music from the motion picture Angus provides the perfect soundtrack for that. It's an encapsulation of everything that I want from an era that I was never a part of. It makes me feel seen in a world that I frequently feel so distant from. Or more accurately, it makes me feel seen by me. I've planned out the multiple different ways this video will turn out as I listen to Angus on my semi-daily walks. I geek out about the cool points I'm going to make, and I get excited about the thing I'm doing. I get a chance to validate my own feelings about what I love through something I love, and that's pretty awesome. I've spent days researching this movie and rewatching it. I even bought the DVD. I have a million more facts that I could share about Angus that I'll hold back now because frankly this has meandered too much already. This movie, and subsequently the soundtrack made for it, have made an impact on my life in a way that the filmmakers and artists could have never anticipated. My life is permanently different because I listened to the soundtrack for Angus. And the end product isn't even the final version of the film that the filmmakers intended. So many scenes were cut due to fears of a homophobic audience, as well as wanting to focus on the demographic of teenagers more than young adults. Yet, they still managed to capture something that resonated with me so powerfully. Sometimes I think we undermine the sheer impact art, particularly pop culture art, can have on people. In this age of instant reviewing and everyone wanting to critically analyze everything they interact with, we forget the very human emotional response to art that is honestly more important than any intellectual discoursive technique. Or maybe that's just me. I don't know everything about everyone, just my minuscule perception of the pop culture world at large. So, Instead of dissecting what each shot of Angus could possibly mean, let's look closer at the impact Angus has had on real, living humans. I was incredibly lucky to get in contact with a few people who went to the high school where the movie was filmed and get a few of their experiences. I did this through a Google Forms survey thing. In this survey, they talked about how the filming disrupted school a little bit, but it didn't really get in the way of anyone. A bunch of them got the chance to be in the marching band and in the stands during the football scene. Apparently, this was an overnight shoot. Having experienced myself the grueling nature of overnight shoots, I was impressed that they were able to still enjoy themselves on set. One person shared a story about a trombonist who broke an expensive camera. The band was told to never break rank, and he ended up running into the camera operator. I tried to find the part they mentioned, and I think I found it, so I'll share it here. This person also mentioned showing the movie to their friends, which stuck out to me in particular. These filmmakers come to this small town, film a movie, invite the high schoolers to participate, and leave the kids excited about the thing they were a part of. Only one of the people who responded to my survey said that they never saw the movie. Movies are so often viewed as big projects involving rich people spending a lot of money to make even more money, or as stories far separate from reality. But in order to make a movie, you need to affect reality. You need to find the right high school and update portions of it in order to make your movie work. You need to work with local high schoolers in order to get the high school to feel lived in. You need people to make a movie. Once the movie is done, those people have changed. They gain a new appreciation for filmmaking as an art. They feel like they were a part of something cool. They have something to brag about 30 years down the road. Some part of the world is never the same because a movie happened. I also reached out to a couple of my peers to get their responses on the film. The most consistent response that I got was pleasantly surprised. One person went in expecting a cheesy high school movie, but instead was impressed with how the film tackled very real emotions that high school kids go through. Another friend of mine was able to dig deeper into the themes of the film and find a transgender allegory. One thing he said that stood out to me was, everything does get better somehow the second you gain even the smallest bit of confidence and stop hating yourself for everything you are. The film, while statistically a drop in the bucket, is a powerful piece of art that can continue to impact people to this day. I hope this video at least encouraged you to check out Angus if you haven't already. Most of all, however, I hope this video helped you reflect on something you love and how it impacted you. There are so many different movies, books, albums, TV shows, paintings, etc. that can have a profound impact on people. Everyone will have different things that stick with them, so embrace the thing you love. Share the impact it had on you with the world, because it may help to impact someone else as well. Relish in your passion for something, and help make the world a better place by perpetuating the communication of art.